Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a postpartum Charles Coulombe.
Postpartum? You mean as in I've left my motherland behind?
Exactly.
I've left the nation that gave me birth, the land that nurtured me, fed me. I've left her behind.
You have. You've abandoned us.
Oh, no, never. I can never really leave because my heart belongs to Mommy. Mommy being the USA in this case.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
That's fair enough.
Think of Nancy Pelosi as the Statue of Liberty.
No. How about no?
Okay. Obviously, it was kind of an advance in its time's worth. But I can see I'm not getting any traction with my new ideas.
She did not lose any respect when she ripped up that paper because she had lost all respect long time ago from everyone. So she should actually be sent to jail. Someone showed me that there's document. That's like an official document, the State of the Union, that was Donald Trump's actual official letter, and she ripped it. You can't do that.
Oh yeah, where does it say that the law applies to old hags? Gotcha there, smart guy.
Oh gosh.
It doesn't say anywhere that old hags have to go to jail for doing anything.
That's
so
true.
There.
I know.
See?
Yeah, well that's true. Okay. All right. What's new, Charles? So you're back in Austria, huh?
I'm back in Austria, and I have decided to go on a small crusade.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
About what?
Against certain words. I want certain words excised from the language, chopped out, ripped out by the roots, cut out, never again used, to be burned to a crisp.
We've got the segment we've already done the segment, which is very popular. Charles deletes words he hates, which if anyone interested, they can look that one up. That's good. But okay, more words.
Maybe this may have been among them. I don't know, but they're really driving me crazy right now. The two words are moderate and extreme.
That was not on the last one. Okay.
Well, I hate them. They don't mean anything.
Why? Because you're not a moderate, you're an extremist?
Or vice versa. Who defines these terms? I mean, you've got the president of France, Macron, who gets up there and he says, your problem is that you see a father as being necessarily male. Now, that's moderate. Everybody who consider themselves moderate over here, if a group or a party declare themselves to be pro-life or in favor of traditional gender roles, they're labeled as extremists. Well, you know what? I think we should get rid of moderate and extreme and replace them with the terms true and false.
Wow.
But that's probably extreme in and of itself.
But how does that work, though? So I mean, like, I can say you're extreme. I can't say you're false.
You can say my views are false. But you're right. It is kind of hard to demonize me as a person. You have to focus on what my ideas are. And then you have to demonstrate they were false.
Right. Yeah, I can't. I mean, that's not an actual label. You know what I'm saying? So
no, I realize, which is what I like about it. It forces the little gray cells to be used
inefficiently.
Well, to be used at all. Today they're not just used. You throw out a you're extreme or whatever you say, and you avoid using the cells. All that you've got going is the mouth.
We got a question on the pre-show. You can for those of you who don't know or who want to have access to pre-show, you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month to know what we're talking about. But it just reminded me of a question on the pre-show where someone was asking about the church, why everything is so about feelings.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason, especially with the advent of social media, is the media, more than ever before, is designed to, get at your feelings. You have to feel something very strongly all the time. The more we can trigger you, the more we can make you fearful, angry, the better, because then you're going to post that on social media. That wasn't the case before social media. I think it wasn't quite as important. But now it's like, wow, we really need to trigger these people and get them outraged. So we need to have the most outrageous stuff, and we need to get them active on social media.
And see, the other thing is, once you've expressed yourself in the nastiest way possible on social media, you have a feeling of accomplishment, as though you'd actually done something.
Yeah.
Which, maybe not. I have to admit, I picked up from the internet today, and I used it when on one of my Facebook threads. It looked like it was going to get a little heated. The cutest little thing. It showed a hamster, and it was nibbling on a carrot slice. It was just so cute. So I'm going to get if the ad hominems started coming. That's how I deal with people on Facebook. You want to get all excited and upset? Bunnies. Little ducklings, chicks, cute. That's what I do, you see. Pictures of marshmallows.
You like marshmallows?
They're okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But what I really love is putting out images of that sort when people start getting excited and upset. And now my Facebook friends have gotten sort of trained. They know that when that stuff starts coming out, the old man isn't happy. Somebody's annoyed me, and they all must pay. With beautiful pictures of sleeping children and unicorns that are uber cute. Oh, yes. That was how I got, it was during one such siege that I got the reputation of being a Brony, as male fans of My Little Pony are called. I've never actually seen the show, but I saw a little unicorn that looked, I was, let's just say that I was feeling saccharin poisoning as I looked at it. I thought, yeah, this is gonna, they're upset, are they? Okay. All right, kids, you get upset. I got something for you. Damn. Oh, yeah. And I put the thing on, and it was, the effect was everything I could have hoped for.
Okay, that sounds good. Anything else new?
Well, let's see. Anything else new? Well, yes, big stuff in Germany right now. And again, it goes back to what I was just saying. The state of Thuringen, in what was formerly East Germany. The Alternative für Deutschland came in second in the elections last year. So this past week, they were trying to form a government. And what happened was, to everybody's horror, because the Alternative für Deutschland is routinely attacked as neo-Nazi and blah, 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 blah. Although the man they were unseating was a communist. Now, just to make things really clear, Die Linke, the left, as that party is called, is the former East German Party of Socialist Unity that ran the country under the Soviets and that murdered its own people. For 40 years, from 49 to 89. All right, let's get that while we're talking extremists. These people were bloody-handed murderers in the very recent past. Okay. So these Alternative für Deutschland folks are a mixed bag. They do have some real crazed whack-out types, no doubt about it. But the majority of them aren't like that. And they're pro-life, pro-gender, everything that our masters hate. And so the CDU, which is the so-called conservative party here, and the FDP, which is the liberal party, they had small numbers. But with the Alternative für Deutschland, they were able to choose the chancellor, the prime minister of the state. But this was horrible that they should do this with the support of these terrible people. So the liberal prime minister, after a day, was forced to resign. And his opponent, Ramelov, the communist, this man is a native of West Germany, but was in touch with the East German Communist Party all through the 80s. And then emigrates to what was East Germany in 94 and stays close with his old pals. So it's better that he should be the prime minister of the state than this FDP guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just so long as we've got that. Angela Merkel said, "This is unforgivable." Oh, you silly little witch. I'll tell you what's unforgivable, that you were ever chancellor in Germany. That's what's unforgivable. What's unforgivable is the horde of immigrants you set loose. That's what's unforgivable, Frau Merkel.
Why? Because you're nativist and you're biased against women?
Oddly enough, no. It's because of all the rapes of women by so many of these immigrants that Frau Merkel did her best to have covered up.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, gee. I guess I'm an extremist. Because the moderate's in favor of rapes. Just like a moderate's in favor of widespread abortion. Yeah. I know what a moderate is, all right.
Okay. I think I'm going to title the episode that already. That's really good. Moderates versus extremists.
Yeah. Well, I like Antifa versus Proud Boys, but never mind. You know who I've been on? I didn't see. Oh, yeah. I didn't see the two of them on video going after each other. I've been on the Proud Boys. You know, I may not agree with them, but if it's a question of betting money, I mean, see, Antifa are good when it's beating up on single people.
Yeah.
You know, they're really effective at that. But when it's a question of street fighting, mano a mano,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, they can beat up on, what is it, Andrew No?
Yeah.
Journalist. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, they beat him to a pulp.
Yeah.
But then when you've got a horde of these other guys coming after them, well armed. Oh well, I guess it's time to move.
It's not as easy when the other guy has a bat.
Yeah, it's true. And when he knows how to use it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, gosh.
Moving along.
Anyhow.
Well, you know, it just occurred to me there could be a third force.
What's the third force?
Well, think about it. Antifa, the Proud Boys, the Bronies.
Oh my gosh.
We're here for peace, everyone. I'll lead them. I don't care. The rainbow banner or whatever they use. Whatever My Little Pony was about, I'll wave the banner. I probably should see the show, though, before I proclaim myself a brony.
For some reason, that makes me think of the Care Bears, because I think it was on the Disney Channel. Because like their weapon, like each had like a symbol, like, and one was like a heart, and it was like Care Bear stare or something like that, and then it like shoots like this laser beam that totally like renders the like the problem solved. So,
wow.
Boy, you just took me back to my childhood, Charles. Good job.
Well, I'm here to help. Nostalgia is my middle name. But, we could go a step further back to the Care Bears. Not in time, but in sanity and immaturity. And, of course, the ever-popular Teletubbies.
Oh, right. Yeah, you like the Teletubbies.
Yes. La la. You bet.
All right, let's move this along to the memes of production.
Oh.
Here we go.
Nationalize the memes of production.
Absolutely. Fancy new logo, by the way. I hope everyone enjoys that. It's very appropriate. Yeah. So, okay, first meme. We'll go with... Let's go with the one on your Facebook wall that I found the other night.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It quite simply says, "How am I supposed to trust you when you keep running away every time I untie you?"
See? I think that's a fair question. I mean, that's what the government is constantly asking us. I think it's a fair question.
So
how could you build trust under those circumstances?
Was there anything that inspired this for you to, or
No.
no?
I just saw it on the internet somewhere and nicked it straight away. I mean, it was too good not to use.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was just. I mean, it spoke to me where I live.
Yeah, that it's reminiscent of our mutual friend's, but one of her bumper stickers, and hers was no restraining order can hold back my love.
Yes, indeed.
Love that one.
Sometimes she has another one that says sometimes it's worth chewing through the straps in the morning.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Now this other one, a little introduction to it. So, for those of you who are new or don't watch every episode, I think in December, several episodes ago, we had a show kind of talking about Warren G. Harding.
Yes.
I think I might have even named it the Warren G. Harding Memorial. But so you were promoting Harding as one of the great presidents.
Yes, the greatest president of the 20th century, without doubt.
Well, okay. I think from superfan Aaron Hook, he sent in this one. One of the greatest testaments to the industry of the United States is the 100-meter tall statue of its 29th president, Warren G. Harding. And he wrote quite a nice description. I'm not going to read it all, but it's the Warren G. Harding Memorial, 100 meters tall.
As it should be. It should tower high over the city of Washington, giving everyone inspiration. And that man was a joiner. I mean, he joined everything from the NAACP to the Ku Klux Klan. If they'd have him, he'd join. Yeah. He was great.
Yeah, he was a moderate, right?
Oh, very moderate. I mean, he stood on returning to normalcy, and if that isn't moderate, I don't know what is.
That's like the definition of moderate, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I mean, radical centrists stirring up apathy. It's great stuff.
Radical centrists stirring up apathy.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's move. Let's do this.
Wow,
we can do it.
Okay, yeah, that reminds me of another thing that I said several years ago. Julian Assange, one of his interviews, he pointed out another word, which conversely is a dirty word in America, and that word is activist. You're an activist. That means it's kind of like one step below extremists.
Yeah, it's well, not always. I mean, it depends. If you have community activists with it, it sounds nice.
Yeah.
Of course, nobody really knows what it takes to be a community activist.
But I think it's not slander, or it's not a label per se. But I think it makes people feel uncomfortable. Like if you say something, oh yeah, like I'm an activist. I think that will make everyone else, like, if you tell somebody that will actually make them uncomfortable. Like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of not that into it.
Well, yeah, it will, especially if you're having lunch with them. But on the other hand, as I say, if you're described as a community activist, that can be okay. Yeah. But if you call yourself one, then people will back away.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being an internet personality. If you're described as one, it's all right. If you call yourself one, well.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely an internet personality. I'll say that.
I'm not the only one. My interlocutor has become one.
I'm not a personality.
Oh, you're a personality.
All right.
You should. There's a whole federation of Vinnie Franchini fan clubs.
That is not true. That's fake news right there. Fake news.
What do you mean? All right. I challenge our readers, our listeners, our hearers, our viewers, whoever you guys are. I challenge you to make this so-called fake news real.
Don't do that. Definitely don't do that. That's ridiculous, Charles. All right, we're moving on.
I think it'd be a great idea.
Okay. I wouldn't trust it anyway. I would think they just want to,
Tease?
what's it? It'd be sycophantic that they just want to
So,
work at the top of the tower of Tumbler House.
well, that there might be a little bit of self-interest involved. That's true. But especially when I give out the word that if they win the contest that I'm running, the first prize is that they get to come to the Tumbler House, ride in the elevator, go all the way up to your office, and have lunch with you in the executive dining room.
That is not true. That is definitely, you do not have authority to to award that as a prize.
But think of how much money I'd rake in.
You'd rake in. Wow.
Yeah. See, you're not maximizing your income potential. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. Okay, Charles. We'll consider that as a fundraiser in the future. All right.
All right. All right. I'm glad I was able to contribute.
Okay.
What else you got?
On to the questions.
The questions.
Are you ready?
I is ready.
Okay. First question is from Robert. Could Charles give his opinion on witch burnings that happened in Europe in the late Middle Ages and continued well into modern times? I just watched a TV documentary that states there were some 50,000 witches burned in Europe. It seems like a really high number. What is the church's stance on it and justification, if any, of it?
Okay, well, first thing I've got to do is make some definitions. What do we mean by a witch? I do not mean Wiccans. Wicca is an age-old religion that goes back to the 1920s. And it is age-old for Americans. It's 100 years old now. But the having been founded and having had their rituals composed a few decades later, the Wiccans have sort of read themselves back into history, claiming continuity with early pagan cults, pre-Christian cults, and with the witches of medieval story. That's actually not true. So, sorry to say it, but it's not.
Well, what's the point of the distinction, though? I mean, aren't they...
Well, there's a big point.
Okay.
There's a big point, because the Wiccans claim to be reconstructed, to have reconstructed the pre-Christian religion of Central and Western Europe, which they maintain was carried on by the people called witches in the Middle Ages, from whom they claim descent. That's the importance. Whereas in reality, every culture, including pagan cultures in Africa and China today, have executed witches. So it's got nothing to do with being pagan or Christian. What then is a witch? Well, the easiest, most general definition is that a witch, regardless of where the person is, whether China or the Australian outback or wherever, is someone who has, in return for various powers, occult powers, given themselves over to whatever that society, that culture, that religion believes to be supernatural evil.
So you're saying Wiccans don't do that?
No.
Why not? What do they do instead of that? They're not looking for powers via the occult?
They're not looking for powers via the devil. What they're looking to do is get in touch with the deities of nature, which many of them don't even believe in either, but see rather as a means of focusing on their own personality.
Well, so they switch the label of the devil. They don't worship the devil. They just worship one of his, one of his lies.
Well, yes, but they obviously.
Why is that an important distinction?
It's an important distinction because if you accuse a Wiccan you're likely to meet of worshiping the devil, they will tell you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, Satanists do that already.
Well, no, Satanists admit that they worship the devil.
They don't. I've seen them on television. They say they worship self.
Well, they will say that. But the truth of the matter is that Satanists of the anti-LaVey variety and all that will say that. But it's a bit different, I assure you. The Wiccans may be self-deluded. Satanists, it's a whole different kettle of fish. I mean, believe me, when you meet them, you'll get a very different feeling. The Wiccans, you feel a tremendous naivete. The Satanists, you feel a bone-chilling cynicism.
Okay, I get it. So you're trying to say Wiccans are just a bunch of airheads. Witches actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a fair. I wouldn't have said airhead, of course, because I'm a nice person, basically. But yeah, pretty much. Well, in fact, in Bill's book, he makes that distinction uh, himself, and I believe it's a true one. But to go back to the witches of history for a moment, every culture, including pagan cultures, have persecuted, punished people they considered witches. That is to say, people who would return for going over to the dark side of whatever that particular faith of that particular people might be, are given supernatural powers. Now, the persecution against witches in the Christian dispensation actually comes from the Old Testament, where we're told, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." So you see, it isn't of Christian origin, but of Jewish.
Mm.
And there is a whole tradition of witchcraft in Judaism, of stories of witchcraft and so forth. Now, the real question is there any truth to it? Do these things really happen? To put this another way, the height of the witch burnings in Catholic Europe in the 1400s, they tapered off with the Reformation. The book that was used as the manual for their trials was the Malleus Maleficarum. Now, I don't know about the numbers, 50,000, 20,000, 60,000. I've heard all kinds of numbers. I don't know which of any of them are true. What I do know is that if any single person had all the marks of witchcraft that the book describes, I kind of wonder about them myself.
Yeah, they're obvious. I mean, it's like the obvious marks of a person being possessed, and they're levitating and all this.
All sorts of, shall we say, problematic issues. The other thing, too, is that in Protestant countries, there was none of that kind of jurisprudence. It was very much catch as catch can. And so it was, for instance, you had Matthew Hopkins in England, the witch-finder general under Cromwell, who would do things like, in order to make sure that a person had a devil's mark, he had a retractable needle. So it would stick it into you and it wouldn't go in, you wouldn't feel it. And there was your devil's mark. It was a murky and dark thing. And frankly, was there real witchcraft of the sort that we're told? As with so many other things in folklore, I cannot believe that there was all that smoke without some kind of fire. And I'm not talking about the fires from the burning of witches. Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult for me to believe, given the evidence I've read, that there wasn't something bizarre happening.
Okay. Next question is from... Oh, wait, actually, before we start, the next question. Do you want to say anything to all the Wiccans that you just triggered and who are going to be screaming in comments?
Don't scream at me. I've actually got Wiccan friends whom I think of very highly as individuals. But the Wiccan faith itself, I really have no more regard for it. The one thing I will give it is that Wiccans generally have a respect for the calendar year that a lot of us Catholics lack. And what they usually will do is they'll take our Catholic liturgical year and take its holidays, take our customs, and try to re-paganize them. But if we kept all the feasts of our calendar, as well as the Wiccans try to do, the faith would be in much better shape.
Okay. I just thought I'd do that because whenever we post a mini segment or video on, like, I remember the one Golden Dawn magically protects Trump from attacks, and we were laughing at them. And, it's funny. People really hate when you don't take them seriously.
Well, it's true. It's worse than hating them. And mind you, to be frank, all right. Let's put it this way: you get an E for effort, and of all people, I'm certainly the first one to respect the sincere seeker after truth.
Okay. Did you say seeker after truth?
I said that. The sincere seeker after truth.
Those are Wiccans?
Well, maybe. I can't read what's in their hearts.
That's true.
You think I'm the judge of the living and the dead? You think I've got the gift of discernment? I don't. And you got to bear in mind, too, that a lot of people turn to Wicca because they've had various, shall we say, unpleasant experiences with Christianity in various forms.
Oh, right.
And it's amazing how many Wiccans are ex-Catholics and ex-Jews. For whatever reason, they're turned off on their ancestral faith or their whatever they were raised with, but they feel the need for ritual in their lives. Well, and of course, bear in mind that this particularly went on the upswing after we Catholics started divesting ourselves of all that after Vatican II. I mean, I know several Wiccans whose critiques of Vatican II and its particularly its liturgical aftermath are quite spot on.
Yeah.
They see exactly what's wrong with demystifying what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to leverage this into a shameless plug. Our best-selling book in the Tumblr House bookstore, Deliverance Prayers for Use by the Laity, by Father Ripperger. Best-selling book. If you got some occult ties that you need to break, yeah, this is kind of the book for you. Like, specifically for you. Whether it's Freemasonry.
Wicca.
Really powerful. Wicca, yeah. If you're a former Wiccan or witch. I actually know a former witch who is now Catholic over in Germany.
Yeah. There are several.
It's but yeah, so I think they have a little tidying up to do. I think certain things linger, and
sure.
You need to break those ties. Okay.
Wow, that was a shameless plug. Just out of curiosity, if they order more than $25 worth of stuff, do they get free shipping and handling?
That's right, Charles. All orders over $25 get free shipping and handling. We've got a new book by Father Ripperger, which will be the book of the day, but I'll just plug it now. Minor Exorcisms and Deliverance Prayers. This is actually specifically for priests. We're going to get into this later. This is an interesting one. But yeah, you get these two books. Free shipping. How do you like that? That's a good deal. Yeah.
So you say there's free shipping if they order both of those books.
That's right.
All right. Wow, that was a shameless plug. Aren't you feeling ashamed?
Everyone's shilling something, Charles. I mean, just look on television, and you have to ask yourself, why not our books? Why not our books?
Well, there's that. And our swag.
That's right.
Don't forget our swag.
Oh, don't forget our swag. That's right. So I have a wall tapestry, or we have wall tapestries. This is the Sacre Coeur, Flag of the Sacred Heart, available through Teespring. We have a link on all our videos in the summary for them. I think they're $40, $30 around there. They come in different sizes. Charles has our Habsburg banner on the left side of his screen. Other way, Charles. There we go. Yeah, on the left side of his screen. That's also available. It's very popular. I have that as a blanket, actually, and it is the most comfortable blanket in the world. It's really incredible.
It is true.
It is true. I use our products. Um,
one of the last times, not to rip open a wound, one of the last times I saw your dear father,
oh yeah.
he was wrapped in that thing.
Gosh, I'm so angry that I didn't take a picture of that. I didn't have I didn't have my phone on me, but that was really quite an image. Where
Yeah,
my dad, my late dad was sitting on the rocking chair, and he just was completely draped in the Habsburg coat of arms blanket, and
yeah,
he just looked like an old timer that was like, fought in some, Austro-Prussian war or something, like some veteran, and
yeah,
it was epic.
and was also very comfortable as a result.
Yeah,
But no, gosh. Anyway, so
yeah.
well, let's move along. We
Move
got any
along.
questions?
Next question is from Max. What does Charles think about Valentin Tomberg, and especially about his work, Meditations on the Tarot? What's his take on Christian Hermeticism?
Oof. Well, that's a lot. And here we come into an area not unlike the one we just covered, that's filled with all sorts of blind alleys and so on. Valentin Tomberg was a very interesting man. He was a disciple of Rudolf Steiner, who was the founder of something called anthroposophy. Now, probably most of you will never have heard of that, but you'll have heard of something he produced which is much more popular and successful, the Waldorf schools. If you ever heard of the Waldorf schools, not the Waldorf salad, that's different, but the Waldorf schools are actually inspired by the work of Rudolf Steiner. Well, Steiner, of course, was an apostate, very odd guy, lots of strange ideas. Tomberg was a disciple of his and then turned Catholic. So he had a very, what's the word I want?
Baggage?
Very different take on the faith.
Oh.
In the sense that, not from the standpoint of being heretical, but everybody comes into the church for different reasons, and they'll see different things, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So when you read the writings of someone who was brought in by the liturgy, you can tell. When you see the writings of somebody who was brought in by Catholic history,
Yeah.
you can tell.
Yeah.
Well, what brought Tomberg in was he saw in Catholicism what he had been seeking his whole life, direct experience of the divine, which it is via the sacraments,
Yeah.
and so forth. So he was Orthodox, but sometimes a little bit outre in his expression. So the book is fascinating. I've read it.
You're very mysterious on this, Charles. What are you covering up? What are you hiding?
All right, Cardinal Ratzinger read it too and liked it. There.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
What a black mark on Cardinal Ratzinger's name. No, seriously, like, what are you alluding to? What's this?
Well, what I'm alluding to, I mean, even dealing with the tarot at all would be enough, and usually quite correctly, to raise eyebrows. But of course, he wasn't looking at the tarot as a system of fortune telling, but as a system of symbols. To put this another way, it's a little bit like the writings of St. Thomas and some of the other church fathers on astrology. They didn't look at astrology as fortune telling either. There's St. Thomas's famous line: "The stars do not compel; they impel."
What does that mean?
What it means is that the stars have a certain influence on you, but they don't, not sufficient to overwhelm your free will. And of course, in all this stuff, the church's major worry is that you will, in fact, fall into some practice which cancels out your free will. I've got to do it. I don't have a choice. I've got to do what I've got to do because Mars is in the ascendant in the fifth house. That's the problem with fortune telling. You see?
Okay.
You see, if I tell you that you are going to have to do this and such, I've just denied your free will.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what is interesting, however, is that So a lot of medieval Christian writers and so forth looked at astrology not so much as a guide to the future, but as providing some insight into the individual's personality. There's actually, in recent years, been a lot of work on this by a character who I've just met personally when I was in LA. Is a scientist called Wolfgang Smith. I call him the real man in the high castle.
Yeah, you've talked about
I
him
mentioned
before.
him, I think, before.
Yeah.
Interesting guy. And again, like Tomberg, and this shows you I'm not really wandering too far off the reservation. Really interesting thinkers. But you see, here's the thing. So much of what we think of as the Catholic worldview is really our own 19th century materialist worldview. Yep. And so what people like Tomberg and Smith have done, or attempted to do, whether or not they've succeeded, I leave to other people to decide, is to show what was real and true in the medieval worldview that the materialist worldview unseated. And
right, yeah.
But see, part of the difficulty in this is that, number one, not everything in the Middle Ages was great. And number two, we are so used to expressing the faith in materialistic terms. And when I say the faith, I don't mean it's dogmas. I mean it's the way it's lived.
Yes.
So, for instance, if I say superstition, we really, our first reaction is anything having to do with the unseen. But you see, it's a very easy, slippery slope to go from denying the rabbit's foot as superstition to denying praying to the saints. And in fact, it's a slippery slope that's gone a lot of people. But the point I'm making is that we have so ingested that worldview that it makes a lot of the things that people like Tomberg or Smith would say or do, which are not necessarily irreconcilable with the faith, nevertheless, they would make us uncomfortable. Because we're so used, I mean, when, again, Smith, who I have to say is not just a physicist, he has a heavy record in hard science. He invented a re-entry system for NASA. So, I mean, this is not some strange mystic, you know. He knows our science. But when he starts talking about rehabilitating aspects of astrology and alchemy, we 21st century Catholics can only look at that with our heavily 19th century scientificist worldview, whether we like it or not, and kind of recoil.
Yeah.
But that perhaps says more about us than it does about him.
Yeah.
And I'd say the same about Tomberg. That, by the way, is not to say that either man is completely right. I have to tell you that I'm not really in a position to say whether either of them are completely right. What I will say is that you can get some valuable insights out of both of them.
Yeah, that's one of the big attractions to reading to me. If you think about it, reading is one of the best ways to escape the 21st century worldview, materialistic worldview. You know? You read these people who are coming from a different perspective, and it is refreshing. And it gets the wheels of your mind turning in a different and good way.
No, and as I say, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything they say is true. But what it does do is inspires you to think. And I would say that, taking it back to Martin's question a bit further, what's spoken of as Christian esotericism and so on and so forth. Again, this is a phrase that's kind of open-ended, like moderate or extremist. You have to ask which writers specifically are we talking about? Because there's some people who claim that term and they're full of piffle. Their idea of esotericism is to somehow baptize Buddhism, you know.
Yeah.
or get kind of new agey or whatever. So Tomberg is usually fairly solid. But some of these folk, I wouldn't say so. I mean, the one who comes to my mind, although he's not considered an esotericist, but it's Father Matthew Fox, who is just all over the place and out to lunch. He was the one who started this Institute for Creation Spirituality, and he had a Wiccan and a masseur and all sorts of people on the staff. And the funny thing is, our Sunday visitor, which never says anything nasty about anybody, but our Sunday visitor ran kind of this is like 25 years ago, they ran a sort of nasty article on Father Fox, which was most unlike them. So somebody wrote in and accused them of running a witch hunt against Matthew Fox. And the editor responded, "We didn't do the witch hunt. Father Fox did. And he found one. And he employed her." So, but anyway, so that's how I feel about these things. I mean, remember, whatever tangential thing connected to the faith you're looking into, whether it's this stuff, whether it's politics, whether it's distributism or the church and capitalism or anything you want, remember, dogma always comes first. Anything that contradicts the four creeds is wrong. Any speculation that cannot be squared with the four creeds is wrong. And that's why we have dogma, you see.
For our new reviewers, what are the four creeds?
Well, I don't know. I was only taught two of them. Exactly. I can't know the other two.
Exactly.
The first creed is the Apostles' Creed, then the Nicene, the Athanasian Creed after St. Athanasius, and the Creed of Pius IV, of the Council of Trent, or the Tridentine Creed. Those three names, but it's the same creed. It's the longest and the most detailed of the bunch.
Okay. Next question is from Dane. Should these United States of America ever submit to a monarchy, could we still be called United States of America? Seems that United States is a rather Republican term and wouldn't fit with a governing monarchy at its head. If we were loyal to a single throne, why need this plurality of self-governing entities that would almost assuredly be done away with under a king or a queen? Even to simply call ourselves Americans, as in those who reside in the country of America, would seem rather absurd because America is either referring to a continent or an Italian explorer. I doubt any ruling family would see it fitting for their subjects. We may as well be known as Winchester, Habsburg, or Bourbon. We are such a melting pot, however. Perhaps United States is the only proper nomenclature for this vast expanse of multiculturalism.
Well, first you've got to bear in mind is that you've got kind of an erroneous assertion there in the question. Until the rise of absolutism in the 15 and 1600s, the very thing about Christian monarchy, Catholic monarchy, is that it, for the most part, it involved autonomous regions. The king ruled each province of its realm in accordance with its own laws. So nothing would be more like that experience. I mean, the very existence of our United States as states as United States was to some degree a reflection of the Holy Roman Empire. That's why we have an electoral college for the presidents, by the way. You look today, I mean, the Queen of Great Britain is independently queen of 16 different realms. So the fact is the monarchy is extremely flexible when it comes to that kind of arrangement. So local liberties and all that were very important in classical Christian monarchies. The second question about American identity under a monarchy. I wrestled with this in Star Spangled Crown. I'm sorry, was that a plug?
That was a plug. Available at tumblerhouse.com. It's like $13, I think. Amazing book.
All right. If they get it with one of the Deliverance books, is free shipping and handling. It's over $25.
That's right. It would be over $25.
See? I know what I'm doing. But if you remember, in that book, I stole the position of the Queen in Canada and Australia, where she's Queen and Right of Australia, Queen and Right of Canada, but also Queen and Right of British Columbia, Queen and Right of New South Wales. I stole that for the new American king, who was king of the United States, but also king of each of them independently, separately.
Yeah.
And you also, I kept the name United States and did my best in order to make the transition as easy as possible. I kept the flag. I wrestled with that. I thought, well, maybe it should be like the Grand Union with the Union Jack in the corner and things like that. And I thought, if one did that, the old flag, the old stars and stripes, old glory, would become a symbol of resistance to the new regime. Whereas, if the king adopted it as the royal flag, he would have a fair shot at transferring all the feelings that right-thinking Americans had in my day toward the flag to his own person.
Yeah.
So the idea was for the new monarchy to soak up the old reverence given the flag.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Next question is from Husaria or Husaria.
Hello, Husaria.
In Charles's book, Puritan's Empire, available at Tumblr House for $24.95, strategically 5 cents under free shipping.
That is sneaky.
Yeah, you can't just buy one book and get free shipping, unless it's Catechism of Council of Trent, which is $37.95, beautiful hardcover. You get free shipping just for buying that alone. How do you like that, Charles?
Boy.
Isn't that incredible?
That's amazing, Vinny.
All right. Anyhow, Husaria says in Charles's book Puritan's Empire, he says that the American Revolution was the turning point where the English Parliament was able to become the dominant force in English politics, and the English monarch was effectively locked out of political decision-making. My question is, has there been any events after the Revolution where the English monarchy came close to regaining political influence? And in the future, how might the monarchy regain its lost power?
Well, to answer the question, sort of, kind of, maybe, sort of. What I said in my book was very eloquently put by Eric Nelson in his book, The Royalist Revolution, where he says that after the revolution and the Constitution were established and all that, he said on one side of the Atlantic, you would have a king without a monarchy, and on the other side, a monarchy without a king. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. The United States are a monarchy without a king. And certainly Britain is a crown republic, a queen without a monarchy. The only real attempts, and they weren't big, to undo this to any degree, very, very slight. Edward VII tried very hard to assert himself in terms of diplomacy and that kind of thing. And also, he refused to pack the House of Lords when the House of Lords turned down the budget and the Home Rule Bill in 1910. The government put a lot of pressure on him, but he wouldn't do it. Unfortunately, he died, and his son came in, and he agreed to do it. Which, frankly, I think the 1911 House of Lords Act was a tremendous blow to the British Constitution, to be honest with you. Anyway, the other, believe it or not, was the hapless Edward VIII of Mrs. Simpson fame. We always think of him in terms of being being basically the man who gave up the throne for the American divorcee. But we forget that as king, and even as Prince of Wales. There were a number of independent initiatives he pursued, and all of them, when you examine them, were pretty sensible. People often say he was pro-Nazi. Well, that's not quite true. He certainly was amazed at what the Nazis did in terms of resurrecting the German economy after they took over. But if he had wanted to play ball with the Nazis, well, when France fell in 1940, he was living there. And it would have been the easiest thing in the world for him and his Duchess to have been kidnapped, quote unquote, or been captured, to let themselves be captured by the Germans. Instead, they went on this crazy, crazy escape that they drove down to the Riviera and all the way to Spain, and then got across the Spanish border, went to Portugal, to Lisbon, and eventually a British ship picked them up and took them away to the Bahamas. But again, he would not have gone through all that if he wanted to sell his country to the Germans. And that's something that stupid people don't understand, because stupid people don't know any history. So there you go. But neither of those were really what you would call big.
Okay.
And as to what you would do to, what you would have to do is have a king who was willing to exercise the letter of the law. By law, there are all sorts of things that the Queen could do and does not do. But the idea they have is a convention acquires the force of law. So the fact that, for instance, no British monarch has vetoed a bill since 1708 makes them feel, well, I guess we don't veto bills anymore. So you would need someone who's willing to say, you know what? This bill violates my conscience. We're vetoing it. It would take a king who would be willing to intervene when the judiciary did something like Charlie Gard. But you've got to bear in mind that these people, like the rest of us, have been trained from birth to believe in democracy. And even in a constitutional monarchy, democracy, which basically means rule by politicians, does not really permit a great deal of royal activism. So you would almost have to expect the king to pull some sort of a coup to do it. Okay. And who knows where that would end. I have to admit, one of my favorite scenes in any film was a movie called King Charles III, about a future where Prince Charles becomes the king and is forced by the prime minister's stupidity to dissolve parliament.
I saw that. That was shared in Facebook, but that's where he walks into parliament and he just does it. Yep. That was a cool scene. I recommend that. That's floating out on the internet.
It's a wonderful scene. It's kind of like the scene with Jude Law as the Pope attacking the cardinals. You're sitting there going, yeah, get him. That would be so fun to see those people just absolutely ripped to shreds.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, next question is from Brian. Charles, I think medieval Benedictines sometimes get a bad rep. I believe this may be partly due to Protestant historians who carry on the tradition of Henry VIII, who claimed the monks were lazy and made profit off fake relics. Yeah. But many saints felt it necessary to establish new or reformed orders because the spirit of laxity had entered in. On the other hand, the Benedictines do often get credit for their spiritual and temporal works, restoring civilization in Europe. To make a long question short, do you think the reports of worldliness among monks to be exaggerated?
Well, I'm sure they were true in some areas. They're certainly true in a lot of monasteries today. And human nature being unchanging, also given the fact that from time to time you would have reforms of orders in particular houses. But again, worldliness in monasteries requires not suppression, but reform.
People from our time are judging medieval monks to be worldly?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe it. People from our time who are so precious and wonderful and know everything and are so perfect and pure.
I hope
It
they
is a
take
bit
that
much.
powerful lens of reform and use it anywhere in the past 50 years.
No, 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 no. Because see, how do you reform something that's perfect already?
I know
We
we're all
moderns are perfect by definition. We're just so wonderful. Gosh, we could kiss ourselves.
you're so enlightened.
Yeah, we sure are.
Okay,
Deep as tabletops.
so you feel that the reports are exaggerated?
To a degree, and even when they're not exaggerated, we're seeing them through the prism of our own perfection.
Yeah.
You know, and as soon as we stop murdering infants by the million, maybe we'll be in a position to judge the past more accurately.
Yeah. Okay, our last question for today is from Darth Kilhoun.
Ooh, Darth. Give
Uh,
our best to everybody back at the Empire.
there you go. Okay, he says, for many years, my faith had wavered with the Catholic Church. I was born and raised in it, but never until now actually felt a connection to it.
So,
Now that I am older, wiser, and learned how to view the church through spiritual, but not religious lens, I have turned my life around. I now am a radical traditionalist, and I hold myself up to the standards of the Teutonic Order. I'm heading off to Army basic training February 24th and still need to do confirmation. I'm still in debate over which saint to choose. I'm debating over Saints Michael, George, and Stephen because I was a soldier physically and spiritually, but also I was wondering if there are any Bavarian saints for ancestral ties that I may consider.
there are.
Okay, so that'll do it for this episode.
Say, all right, fine. I'll tell you
Yeah.
who they are. Oh, you caught me. You caught
Don't
me.
bluff. Don't bluff. You gonna play chicken?
No, I'm not going to play chicken with you. You got the whip hand on this one. No, no. They are St. Rupert, who was the first bishop of Salzburg, and St. Emmeram, who was a monk at Regensburg. So Rupert and Emmeram.
Bavarian Saints.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about one of the things that he mentioned in here that I'm curious about. He says, "I hold myself up to the standards of the Teutonic Order."
Da, 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 da.
What does that mean? What is the Teutonic Order, and what does that mean? What are their standards?
Very high. The Teutonic Order, the Teutonic Knights, were an order of knights like the Templars, like the Hospitallers, who became the Order of Malta, and like them was founded in Palestine. Unlike them, it was not international in membership, but was primarily German, hence the name Teutonic Knights. And when the Crusades ended, they spent a short time fighting the Muslims in Transylvania, but then got moved out to fight the pagans in the Baltic. And they conquered Prussia, and Latvia, and Estonia, and all that. Those are the lands of the Teutonic Knights. And then, when the Reformation, so-called, came, the ones in the Baltic either left for the south or they converted to Protestantism and took wives. And they were the ancestors of the Baltic barons up there. But there was still a lot left in Catholic Europe, Catholic Germany anyway, Catholic Austria. And there the order survives to this day. Although, like the Knights of Malta, they're no longer involved in fighting. Although, the interesting thing is that the last several Grand Masters of the Teutonic Order until 1918 were Habsburg archdukes, and they were the honorary colonel of a regiment called the Hochhund Deutschmeister Regiment, whose band has survived to this day. And so the regiment's, well, not exactly gone, but not where it was. But the band you can see marching through the streets of Vienna, still with the Teutonic Order crosses. and playing great music. And then there was a Protestant element of them in the Netherlands who survived to this day. So, what are their high ideals? Well, Catholic chivalry. After 1918, they became primarily a order of priests, but since the past 20 or 30 years, once again, they have a growing lay element.
Okay.
So, now you know.
So, yeah, I think there's a 10 Commandments of Chivalry, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, those are some good things to look up in terms of if anyone's interested in that.
Especially the book that will be found in Léon Gautier's Chivalry, which is available from Tumblr House. And if you got it with another book, you would be able to get the free $25 or more shipping.
That's right. Absolutely. Important book. I need to reread it. Okay. Speaking of books, it's time for the book of the week. As I alluded to earlier, we've got Minor Exorcisms and Deliverance Prayers by Father Ripperger in Latin and English. Now, this is a special book. This is the only kind in our bookstore where it's specifically for priests. These are prayers that are specifically for priests. And I'm promoting this in case any of the laity would like to purchase this book for one of their priests if they show a willingness in terms of protecting their flock from the fallen angels. I'm going to read a little bit from the introduction of the book, or the instruction. Saint Alphonsus Liguori and other saints have always held that each priest is required to do exorcisms and deliverance depending on his state in life. This does not necessarily mean that he will do solemn exorcisms as directed by his bishop, but it does mean that, as the saint says, in every parish and diocese there are people who are under attack from the fallen angels, who need assistance of the priest to whom their care and protection has been entrusted. This text contains various prayers and exorcisms which may be used by any priest without further permission or faculties from his ordinary. The text constitutes a compilation of prayers written by saints, priests, and exorcists. While the prayers are divided into different parts of this text, their location in a specific part should not be taken as indicative of the only place or time they should be employed. All of the prayers, other than the English translation of the minor exorcisms, are considered part of the public domain. And I'll show you. There's we've got so many people who purchased deliverance prayers. They're probably wondering, what's the difference here? Well, for one, this is a much thicker book that contains more, and there's a great deal of prayers in Latin because I remember Christine Niles from Church Militant said that prayers said in Latin are more efficacious, but I didn't hear why. But so it seems like Father Ripperger is going off of that as well here. I'll show everybody. You've got the English and then the Latin. There you go. Finally zoomed in, side by side. So, this is, I believe, I think $24. So part of this is about education for priests in terms of, some of their duties. I don't think a lot of priests know about this approach, about that. No. This is part of the things that, they should be doing to protect their flock. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to raise awareness for Father Ripperger, because I think he's trying to promote that awareness with this book.
Yeah, I think he's right. Certainly the devil goeth about as a lion, seeking whom he might devour.
Absolutely. So, anyhow, any closing thoughts for this show, Charles?
Yes, I do. I do indeed. Just think of it. You're in Los Angeles. I'm in Vienna. There's half a world between us. And yet we're communicating in this wonderful, wonderful new technology. So here's the question that all of us have to ask ourselves. Why in this world of wonders is everything so screwed up? It's a question to think about and ponder.
Okay. I was going to try to answer it, but yeah, okay.
Oh, believe me, that's an episode all on itself.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, with all of that, I should point out that today, February the 8th, which is the day we're doing this in real time, is the day that Mary Queen of Scots was traditionally murdered.
Hence the
White Rose.
Yeah.
And the French fleur-de-lis. Also, I have to remind everyone that when they hear this, tomorrow is Septuagesima Sunday, the beginning of Carnival, of Shrovetide, of Pre-Lent, of Mardi Gras. Yes, but the point to make is that you should revel and party during this coming period to the degree that you'll be fasting and abstaining and doing penances during Lent. No more, but no less. So, if you plan to just kind of, coast your way through Lent, maybe I'll give up bonbons. Don't party very hard. You've got nothing to party about. But the more you're going to be giving up during Lent, the more you can enjoy during this period ahead of us.
There you go.
We will be seeing you next at the height of Mardi Gras. So I think you might get some questions on Mardi Gras.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that's coming up so quick. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Because, see, this is Septuagesima Sunday. Then next week is Sexagesima. 2 weeks is Quinquagesima. And then Quinquagesima is the Sunday before Lent.
Okay.
You'll have Monday, Lundi Gras, then Tuesday, Mardi Gras, and then Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
Fast away the old year passes. Fa la 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 la. It's gonna be Christmas again before you know it.
It's going too quickly.
It's called getting older. The year zips by.
I don't want to get older. No, actually, getting
You're
older is
a Toys
nice.
R Us kid?
Getting older is nice. I do actually like getting older. Because one of the things about getting older, they always talk about regaining your confidence, as a man. Like, because my hair's thin, big time. But, ironically...
I wasn't going to say anything.
Ironically, as my hair thins, but as I get older, I get more confidence. And confidence that I never had as a youth. And you know what? I'll do that trade. I'll do that trade every day, every time. It's nice. Because I hated my lack of confidence and all the insecurities of youth and not knowing who you are and all those things. It's so hard. For all you young gentlemen out there, my heart goes out to you who are struggling with those sorts of things. And anxiety, too, because that leads to anxiety, social anxiety and all that. Yeah, I'm praying for you guys because it's tough. I know how tough that is. So, getting older, kind of a blessing. Kind of a blessing. I was joking about it before. I don't want to get older, but it's nice to be a little bit older.
I don't want to get old. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
And I'm sure different things will creep up now. Instead of insecurities, it's like, back problems and weird things.
Well, it is. I will say, I agree with you. The difference. I was having this conversation with one of my classmates here today. In fact, all those insecurities and all that, I don't have at all.
Yeah. For
obvious reasons. If you hadn't figured out the answers to those questions by the time you're 59 going on 60, you're not going to, so give it up. You'll never find out who you are. So maybe it wasn't worth knowing. Maybe it just wasn't worth knowing, But I mean, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Had you found out, you might have been horrified. But there's a wonderful parody of New Agery that has the phrase "dealing with post-self-realization depression."
Oh wow!
When you realize who you really are and who you really are stinks.
Wow.
It's so sad. But what you do feel in a way that you can't right now is mortality.
Yeah.
You can feel the time ticking away. Tick, tick, tick. Now, I was thinking about this. If one of my classmates has to take a semester off, it's no big deal because they have a lot of time. For me, if I had to take a semester off, that's a lot of time, God.
That's interesting.
I mean, similarly, when I look at the length of time I have yet to spend here and I begin to go, I stop and I remind myself, well, yeah, but if I were in LA, time would still go by, no matter what I did. And it would go by very quickly, the way it's going now. So my hope is that when I come to die, I should have left something behind me of worth, and I've done something with my life. And the thing is that I've really done all the kinds of things I wanted to do. I don't have a bucket list or anything like that. But I hope that some of what I've done, some of what I've accomplished is of lasting value. But I'm not going to know that this side of the grave. Nobody can. So, but with that happy note, we never like to leave on notes like that.
Yeah.
Because that is a downer. And what do we not want to be? Who do we not want to be?
Debbie Downer?
Little Debbie Downer. We don't want to be her.
Yeah.
We don't want to be little Debbie Downer. So what are we going to do instead? Well, what we'll do instead is reflect on the fact that Mardi Gras is coming. The year turns again. We shall be enjoying Lent, and then Easter, and so it goes in its wonderful, wonderful way. St. Patrick's Day is coming up.
Yep.
Corned beef and cabbage.
Oh gosh, Irish delicacy.
Well, not really, but we'll pretend. It's an Irish-American delicacy. And I love it. I love corned beef and cabbage.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I guess we've just got two things to remind them.
Yeah. If it's Monday,
it's off the menu.
And the soul you save
may be your own.
Take care, everyone.
God bless.